Okay.
We'll start, Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Just give me 1 second, Prabhu.
Yeah.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees. Today we are very, very happy to invite His Grace Swayam Prakash Prabhu, Swayam Prakash Krishna Das Prabhu. We all know Swayam Prakash Krishna Prabhu, but for few of them who are new to the congregation, who joined from other groups also. So Swayam Prakash Prabhu is our very devoted, dear congregation member for GRS for the last 15-20 years. Prabhuji is a very senior disciple of His Holiness Mahavishnu Goswami Maharaj. Prabhuji comes from a very top-notch corporate background from a banking industry. He has completed his masters in XLRI in India, very top institute in India, and also his masters in business analytics in London and other places also. He has established himself in the banking industry for many years in the top management, and his family is also wonderfully devoted and then doing wonderful services in GRS. So today we are very happy and fortunate to have Prabhuji with us today. Prabhuji's Bhagavatam sessions have been wonderfully driven, and then many of them got inspired through the sloka recitations and classes also. So Prabhuji has extended his support for taking few of the units from this section onwards. So Prabhuji will cover the 3rd chapter for us, and then afterwards he'll take a break and then come back for a few other chapters also. So please warmly welcome Prabhuji. Please extend your cooperation and then start invoking yourselves to utilize the opportunity in getting the knowledge from Swayam Prakash Prabhu. So the more and more you ask questions, the more and more it will be helpful for you to get the understanding and knowledge from senior Vaishnavas. So thank you so much, Swayam Prakash Prabhu, for providing your extended support. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Prabhuji, and thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna, Prabhu's Matajis. So it's an opportunity to take your association and also to study the Srila Prabhupada's books also in the Association of Devotees and Vaishnavas. So thank you for this opportunity. So today we're looking at the 3rd chapter. I understand we have finished 2 chapters already.
1 second, Prabhu.
Just mute them, yeah. Okay.
Prabhu, I'll give you the host access, then I will draw.
Yeah, thank you. So let's start with the invocation prayer, and then we can start from the 3rd chapter. But before that, I'll give us a little introduction to what has happened so far in the 1st and 2nd chapter, so that there is context setting, and then you can continue the discussion. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjanashalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. नमो ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधार शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंदा हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे. So Hare Krishna, Prabhu's Matajis. Maybe before we start the discussion on the 3rd chapter, I just wanted to request devotees, if anybody would want to share what they've understood so far in the 1st and 2nd chapters, whatever has been covered so far by Prabhuji in this Bhakti Shastri course. So anybody is free to unmute themselves and just contribute or share whatever their realizations are and whatever they have understood so far. Anybody? Or I'll have to maybe call out the names. Sachi Sutta Prabhu, you'd like to say something? Ribol? Simha Chaitanya Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam.
Dandavat Pranam,
Yes,
Prabhu.
Prabhu, the 1st chapter is mainly talking about Dhritarashtra's blindness. it indirectly says that how blind we are also in bhakti, and how we should surrender to Guru and learn to advance in bhakti. That is mainly Arjuna surrenders to Krishna and accept him as Guru in second chapter, 7th sloka. So after that, Krishna also enlightens how Arjuna should do his duty as per his varnashra dharma. That is mainly about the second chapter, how Arjuna should come out of all this, his attachment, all this.
Okay, thank you, Prabhu. Thank you for your nice summary. So I think I've kind of taken some points from the first and the second chapter. Anybody else? Haladar Prabhu, would like to say?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Dandavat pranams.
No problem.
Yeah, as Prabhu said, Prabhu, the first chapter, Dhritarashtra not only physically blind, and actually also it explains that Duryodhana's fear and diplomacy looking at the armies, and there is a comparison between both the armies. Then Arjuna observing the armies, he look at all his friends, relatives, and his bodily changes, and then his mood changes. I mean, he become compassionate, and he come up with some reasons not to fight. So the reasons like sin and destruction of family tradition, and he come up with various reasons not to fight. Yeah, that's first chapter, what I remember, Prabhu. First chapter summary.
Oh, that's a good summary, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So maybe what I will do is I will quickly show some slides from that was prepared by His Grace Radhesham Prabhu and his team. So that kind of gives a good starting point to, before we start this chapter. You all can see my screen, right?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes,
Okay.
Prabhu.
Just a minute. Okay, so I think devotees have already shared. So this kind of leads from the first and second chapter before we start the third chapter, right? So first chapter is, we all know that Arjuna is observing the army, and he gets kind of compassionate, but that compassion is more on the sorry. Yeah, that compassion is more on the ground of material compassion, as Srila Prabhupada says, because he's not talking from the point of view of a devotee or a spiritualist who understands that this body is temporary, this body is destructible, but the soul within is permanent and eternal. So he's kind of setting a platform or a stage for Krishna to reveal the knowledge. Actually, Arjuna is not illusioned, but Krishna is using the example of Arjuna to teach all of us. And Srila Prabhupada gives the example of a mother-in-law who is teaching a daughter-in-law through a daughter. Instead of directly instructing the daughter-in-law, the mother-in-law would tell the daughter to do things. The daughter already knows things to be done, but just to instruct the daughter-in-law. Similarly, Arjuna is being used as an instrument by Krishna to be illusioned, like all of us are in this material world. We are illusioned. We don't truly understand our identity, that we are not this body. And because of that, we are completely in ignorance. And on the platform of ignorance, whatever we do is not right or incorrect always. So in order to correct or remove the ignorance, Krishna is using Arjuna as an instrument to reveal this wonderful knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So that is the setting the stage for the whole revelation of this great transcendental knowledge. So as an illusioned living entity would always behave, Arjuna is behaving and saying that I cannot fight Krishna, and he gives various reasons. So some reasons are summarized here. On the right side, you see here Arjuna's reasons for not fighting. So first is compassion, as we said. Second, Arjuna also says that what is the use of winning this kingdom when there is nobody to display this opulence to? If I'm not able to show this opulence to the Kauravas after beating them, then what is the use of this enjoyment, or what is the use of this kingdom? So he's using enjoyment also as a reason not to fight. There's nothing for me to show. There's no opulence for me to display because there's nobody there except us after we win the battle. Third is the fear of sinful reactions, because he quotes, if you remember in the first chapter, he quotes various reasons, various verses that this is papa. Papa meva shreya dasmad. He says that by killing these aggressors, although they may be aggressors, but by killing these, we incur the sin. And incurring the sin means you have to suffer the reactions in the hellish planets or whatever. Or even this current life, we may have to suffer various reactions. And the fourth reason Arjuna gives is destruction of family traditions. So the last few verses of the first chapter, if you remember, Arjuna is significantly talking about how the fight, how as a result of battle, the family values will be destroyed, the social welfare projects will be destroyed. All this pinda karma, all this kind of, there won't be elders in the family. All this pindadan, as a result of no elders, the traditions will be gone away. Nobody's there to follow the traditions. The women will be spoiled. As a result of spoiling of women, the population is spoiled. Varna Sankara, he says Varna Sankara, which means the bad population. So as a result of bad population, all the social projects, community welfare projects, everything will be destroyed. So that is one reason that Arjuna gives. And finally, in the second chapter, towards the beginning of the second chapter, Arjuna is confused. So he comes to the platform of indecision or confusion. And he says, I don't know whether to fight or not to fight. Right? He says in the 6th verse of second chapter. And then as a devotee should do always, if you're in a state of confusion, then what is that we are supposed to do? We are supposed to surrender to Krishna through the medium of the spiritual master. In this particular case, Krishna is both the Supreme Lord and the spiritual master for Arjuna. So as a devotee, as a practicing devotee for us, Arjuna is setting an example that when we are in perplexities or confusion, the only resort for us to surrender to spiritual master, or surrender to Krishna through the medium of spiritual master. So that is what Arjuna does in 7th verse. Anybody would like to chant the 7th verse of the second chapter, because it's a very famous verse, and I'm sure this is one of the verses that you're supposed to memorize. So if anybody want to volunteer to chant the 7th verse.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yeah, yes, Mataji, please.
कार्पण्य दोषोपहत स्वभाव पृच्छामि त्वां धर्म समूढ़ चेतः यत् श्रेयस्यानिश्चितं ब्रूहि तन्मे शिष्यस्तेऽहं शाधि मां त्वां प्रपन्नम्.
Very nice. Thank you, Mataji. So that verse very clearly shows how Arjuna is now surrendering to Krishna. He says, Krishna, I am confused. I don't know what is to be done. Therefore, I, as a sincere student, I'm surrendering unto you, Krishna, and you instruct me now. You guide me. And this is the formula for all of us. Whether we are in difficulties or not in difficulties, but we should understand that Krishna is the Supreme Lord, and He is the one who can really take us out of difficulties. Difficulties not only in terms of difficulties, but also place us at His lotus feet and give us, love of Godhead. He is going to award us devotional service. So that is the perfection of our existence. The whole Bhagavad Gita is to bring us to that point of surrender to Krishna. And all of these verses, all of these discussions that Arjuna is asking questions and Krishna is giving us the answers, ultimately is to lead us to that point. That's why towards the end of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, leave everything and surrender unto me. Ham tvam sarva papebhyo mam mokshayishyami ma suchayam. Don't worry that I'm going to take care of everything. So now with this context, we are good to go into the chapter per se, right? This third chapter. Okay, let's start by, so I'll request Anil Prabhu or Paramshil Mataji to chant this verse, and then we will look at the translation and purport.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Yes, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Arjuna Uvacha. Sorry, Prabhuji. Wait, I'll open my.
No, take your time. See, one thing I'll tell you, if you really want to understand how to chant verses, The easiest way is to look at the word-to-word meanings,
Yeah.
because Prabhupada has actually broken down these words into different parts, right? For example, Jayasi Chet Karmana Te. So Jayasi Chet Karmanaste. Like this, you can break down the words and easily you can chant the verses if you have some difficulty.
Yeah.
But I think all of us are from India, and we have Sanskrit is the root language for all the languages that we speak. So it shouldn't be very difficult, and Prabhupada has made it very, very easy for us.
Okay, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Tanvat pranam. Arjuna uvacha jayasi chet karma naste mata buddhir janardhana tatkim karmani ghore mam niyojayasi keshava.
Prabhu, do you want to chant one time? Anil Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Arjuna uvacha jayasi
Chet
चेत मरण स्ते
karmanas
कर्मणस्ते मता बुद्धि जनार्दना
tatkim
तत्किम कर्मणि घोरे घोरे मम
mam
माम निजोतया
niyojayasi.
निजो जयसि केशवः.
Thank you, Prabhu. So it's Arjuna Uvacha Jayasi Chet Karmanaste Mata Buddhir Janardana Tatkim Karmani Ghore Mam Niyo Jayasi Keshava. Anybody would like to volunteer for the word to word? Kirti Kumari Mataji, Kirti Mataji, maybe you want to.
Yes. Arjuna said.
Sorry? Yeah, okay. Kirti
Okay.
Mataji, please.
Arjuna, Jayasi better if
Sorry, anybody else is chanting the verse, is it? I think we'll
Someone
just
is
keep
chanting,
to, yeah,
Guru.
I think we'll just keep to one person chanting the verse, and then
Prabhu, you can continue. That Prabhuji can continue who was reading.
okay,
It's
he
okay.
was reading. Okay, then he can continue. So Anil Prabhu, then you can read this word to word translation and purport between the two of you,
Okay.
Prabhu Mataji, and then we can next verse we can go to somebody else.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay.
Arjuna Uvacha, Arjuna said, Jayasi, better, Chet, if, Karmanaha, then fruitive action, Te, by you, Mata, is considered, Buddhi, intelligence, Janardhana, O Krishna, Tat, therefore, Kim, why, Karmani, in action, Ghore, ghastly, Mam, me, Neo-Jayasi, you are engaging, Keshva, O Krishna, Arjuna said, O Janardhana, O Keshva, why do you want to engage me in this ghastly warfare? If you think that intelligence is better than fruitive work. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada ki Jai.
Purport, Prabhu.
Yeah,
The
please.
Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has very elaborately described the constitution of the soul in the previous chapter, with a view to delivering his intimate friend Arjuna from the ocean of material grief. And the path of realization has been recommended Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness. Sometimes Krishna consciousness is misunderstood to be inertia, and one with such a misunderstanding often withdraws to a secluded place to become fully Krishna consciousness by chanting the holy name of Lord Krishna. But without being trained in the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, it is not advisable to chant the holy name of Krishna in a secular place where one may acquire only cheap adoration from the innocent public. Arjuna also thought of Krishna consciousness or Buddhi Yoga or intelligence in the spiritual advancement of knowledge as something like retirement from active life and the practice of penance and austerity in a secular place. In other words, he wanted to skillfully avoid the fighting by using Krishna consciousness as an excuse. But as a sincere student, he placed the matter before his master and questioned Krishna as to his best course of action. In answer, Lord Krishna elaborately explained Karma Yoga as the work of Krishna consciousness in this third chapter. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu Mataji. So in this is a introduction to this chapter. So if you remember in the second chapter, let me just go there for a minute. So in second chapter, there is a verse in the towards the later part of second chapter where Arjuna is being told by Krishna this particular verse, right? Dure nahi avaram karma buddhi yoga dhananjaya buddhau sharanam anvichya kripanaha falahetava. So Krishna uses the word buddhi yoga here, and many times in this chapter Krishna has used the word buddhi yoga. So here the translation is that, oh Dhananjaya, that means Krishna is addressing Arjuna, keep all abominable activities far distant by devotional service, and in that consciousness surrender unto the Lord. Those who want to enjoy the fruits of their work are misers. So Arjuna remembers this verse and the various descriptions of Buddhi Yoga. And here in this third chapter also now, Krishna is using the word Buddhi, right? Mata Buddhir Janardana. So Arjuna is rather using. So Arjuna is linking the use of Buddhi here to that particular verse, 49th verse of second chapter, where Krishna is telling Arjuna that keep all abominable activities far distant by using your intelligence. So Arjuna has understood abominable activity here to mean this battle. Because you're killing people, it's a violent activity, so naturally it's considered abominable from a moralistic standpoint, right? From a moral principle standpoint, you would not want to commit violence to anyone. So Arjuna has understood it that way. But of course, it is not the correct understanding. But as a sincere student, again, Arjuna is setting an example before us that whenever you are in doubt, whenever you have questions, we should not use our mind to speculate. No, sometimes when we come in the association of devotees or we go to the temple or when we are practicing, we often speculate based on what we see with our eyes or what we think with our mind. Because we have a very limited understanding, because we don't understand our own mind, our own actions and thoughts, what to speak of others. So we come to conclusion, we kind of judge people based on their actions and their thoughts. But that's purely speculation according to Bhagavad Gita. So whenever we are in speculation, we should always check. I mean, normally in our devotional service, whenever we are in difficulties or confusion, we should speak to a spiritual master. If we don't have access to a spiritual master, then we speak to our Shiksha Gurus. We have senior devotees in our movement with whom we should confidently ask and seek and clear our doubts. Or we simply pray to the Supreme Lord. If we don't have access to devotees, for example, if we are staying in a place where we don't have association, then we just pray sincerely to Srila Prabhupada and to the Supreme Lord, right? And we honestly put the doubt in front of them and ask them to clear the doubt. That is the way that Arjuna is showing here. Here Arjuna is now asking question to Krishna that, Krishna, you're asking me on the one hand that you should keep all abominable activities by using far distant. And then at the same time, now you're asking me, because towards the end of second chapter, Arjuna was told by Krishna that you get up and fight. What are you doing? You don't shirk away from all these irresponsibilities and then you fight. Take the responsibility as a Kshatriya and you fight. So Arjuna is apparently confused. On the one hand, Krishna telling him not to keep abominable activities far distant, and now Arjuna is also being told by Krishna that you fight. So he's confused. So a confused student always places the matter before the spiritual master or the Supreme Lord. And that is what Arjuna is doing here. And this is a great example for us to follow. We always follow the path of great devotees. Mahajana yena gata sapantaha. That the great devotees, whatever path they walk on, we simply follow that. So here Arjuna is asking that question. So he's linking to what he heard in the second chapter. So that is the context of this particular verse. Okay. And Prabhupada explains here that the reasons why Buddhi Yoga is misunderstood by Arjuna and normally by people like us, right? So Arjuna thought of Krishna consciousness as something like retirement from active life and practice of penance and austerity, secluded place. Actually, it is anything but this. Krishna consciousness is anything but this, because we know that there's so many activities. Nobody in our society here or anywhere in the world, whoever is following Krishna consciousness, nobody's advised to change their ashram, right? If somebody has a strong desire to take sannyas or to become or to continue as a Naishtika brahmachari, that is fine. But those who are already in a particular grihastha ashram, like most of us are in grihastha ashram, nobody's advised anywhere that you have to change the ashram. You have to give up the family life or give up your work or whatever you're doing. No, that is never a reason. Nowhere in the scriptures it is mentioned, and definitely not in our movement. Prabhupada has never encouraged that we should stop whatever you're doing. You simply improve the quality of your life. So whatever you're doing now, improve the quality of your life by changing your consciousness. That is all is needed. And this whole program of Krishna consciousness means that we change our consciousness. We purify or improve our consciousness and continue whatever we're doing with a different frame of consciousness. That is all is needed. So here, Prabhupada is clarifying that Krishna consciousness anything but go into a secluded place and practice something for cheap adoration. Right? We're not in the business of getting adoration from anyone. We are simply interested in our own sadhana, improving our quality of our own life, and in whatever way we can help others to improve the quality of their life, to encourage others. That is all is needed. Right? So as a sincere student, he's placing the matter before his master, and this is something that we have to really follow. So now Krishna will slowly start to speak, but before that, Arjuna is again continuing to ask. So now let's see who else can chant. Amit Bharadwaj Prabhu, would you like to chant this verse and also read the translation and purport?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Prabhuji,
Hare Krishna.
I'm traveling today in a hotel room and daughter is sleeping, so I'll in a listen mode only today.
Okay, sure,
I'm not
sure.
in Singapore today.
Okay, no problem, no problem. Anandani Madhavi Mataji, are you there? Hare Krishna. Okay. Anurag Radhika Mataji. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Okay. Mataji, can you chant the verse and read the word to word and
Yes,
translation purport?
I'll try, Prabhu.
Yeah, please.
Vyameshrena vyakena buddhim mohayasi vame tad ekam vada nishitya yena shreyo aham apnayam.
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Okay,
You read the word to word and the translation purport.
Yes, Prabhu. Okay, Prabhu. Vyameshrena by equivocal eva, certainly. Vakyena, words, buddhim, intelligence, moha, yasi, you are bewildering, eva, certainly, me, my, tat, therefore, ekam, only one, vada, please tell, nishitya, ascertaining, ena, by which, shreyaha, real benefit, aham, I, apniyam, may have. In translation, my intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. Purport. In the previous chapter, as a prelude to the Bhagavad Gita, many different paths were explained, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, control of the senses by intelligence, work without fruitive desire, and the position of the neophyte. This was also presented unsystematically. A more organized outline of the path would be necessary for action and understanding. Arjuna therefore wanted to clear up these apparently confusing matters so that any common man could accept them without misinterpretation. Although Krishna had no intention of confusing Arjuna by any jugglery of words, Arjuna could not follow the process of Krishna consciousness, either by inertia or by active service. In other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad Gita.
Thank you so much,
Prabhu.
Mataji. Thank you. So Arjuna is continuing now. So he's asking Krishna that, Krishna, you're giving me equivocal instructions. Equivocal means in Sanskrit is Vyamishrena. Vyamishrena means it's a mishra. It's a mix of two contradictory instructions, right? So on the one hand, as I said earlier in the previous verse, Arjuna says that you have asked me to, apparently is understood buddhi to mean that use your intelligence to not fight. That is his understanding of buddhi yoga. At the same time, Krishna is telling him to get up and fight. So he's confused between these two apparently contradictory statements. But here, in this particular chapter, Krishna will clarify now, saying that there is nothing contradictory, both are the same. It's just that one platform is higher than the other platform. So how do we come to that? Let's understand it further. So there is something called a yoga ladder, which Krishna is presenting in this third chapter onward. So from third all the way to sixth chapter, Krishna is presenting what is called a yoga ladder. So ladder means you have lower steps, middle steps, and higher steps, right? You climb up the ladder. So the lowest level of the yoga ladder is where you are completely attached to your work and you're not giving up the results for anything or anyone, not even, not even to the larger community, for example. Everything you want to do it for yourself, enjoyment. That means you work for your enjoyment. The results that you get, you want to use it for your enjoyment. That is purely a karmic activity. It's no yoga here, it's pure karma. Then gradually you move to what is called sakama karma. Sakama karma means I'm doing work and I'm highly attached to my results. But somehow or the other, I try to still give up a little bit of the results. But majority of the things I keep it to myself because I want to enjoy the results. Then you graduate further to what is called nishkama karma. Now, nishkama karma means you develop some kind of detachment. Nishkama. Nishkama means no kama or no attachment. You develop some kind of detachment from the results of your work, which means you start doing some charitable activities. Many people do that, right? When they earn a lot of money, they do some charitable, they create hospitals, they feed the poor, they start some kind of for the people, shelter for the homeless kind of thing. So a lot of such activities, philanthropic activities, they perform because they want to give up some of their wealth that they've earned. So that's for a good cause. So it's much better than enjoying everything for yourself. And then you come to the platform of jnana platform. Jnana platform means you realize that all of this is transitory, all of this is illusory, all of this is temporary. What is the use of performing all these activities? I might as well give up everything, renounce my work, renounce the activities, renounce the results, and then do something higher. Like, maybe join some spiritual organization, sit and do some preaching, or just simply sit and meditate, right? Then you start wearing some saffron dress. Then either you just travel from one holy place to the other, or you sit and meditate and do some kind of spiritual practice. Then above that is what is known as buddhi yoga or bhakti yoga. In this particular case, Krishna is talking buddhi yoga, which is nothing but bhakti yoga. So here buddhi means using buddhi, using intelligence to serve Krishna or to perform your devotional service. That is the meaning of buddhi yoga. So there is no difference between buddhi yoga and bhakti yoga. So wherever in Bhagavad Gita you hear the word buddhi yoga, it simply means bhakti yoga. But Krishna is slowly bringing us from the platform of, the lowest level of platform to the highest level, which is bhakti, right? So you see here karma, sakama karma, nishkama karma, jnana, then you come to buddhi or bhakti yoga. So that is the journey that Krishna is taking us through on this ladder called the yoga ladder. So now we are starting the journey from this third chapter where Krishna is in the first 9 verses, which we're going to see today, are extremely important, very, very important and foundational principles of karma yoga, where Krishna is introducing the concept of karma yoga. What is karma yoga? What is the correct understanding of karma yoga? And how Arjuna is apparently misunderstood this concept of karma yoga. And then subsequently, Krishna will expand after the 10th verse onwards this process of the yoga ladder. So the first 9 verses gives us the kind of summary to this whole chapter, if you like, a very quick understanding or summary of this yoga ladder, and then further expansion from the 10th verse onwards. So Krishna willing, we will try to see the first 9 verses. So that kind of sets the whole foundation for this chapter, right? So any questions or anybody has anything to share, or any equivocal messages that I have given here, if anybody has any doubt before we proceed further. Is it clear or is it confusing?
Yes, Prabhu, clear.
It's clear.
Thank you.
So far, it's clear.
Okay, thank you, Mataji. Then let's move to the next verse. I'll see whom to request. Anurag Radhika Mataji Chitta Haridas Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Bhuji. Hello.
Hare Krishna.
I
Maybe
have
you
one
go to-
doubt.
Yes.
Hello. Regarding just now, you say about the ladder.
Yes.
This jnana and buddhi, as a literal meaning, both should be same, correct? Like-
Yeah. See, one thing is we should not look at it from a strict literal meaning. That's why I mentioned that Buddhi Yoga in Bhagavad Gita means actually Bhakti Yoga. But Krishna, instead of directly talking about bhakti yoga, which might be too far-fetched for many of us who are on the much lower platform, right? To appeal to us, Krishna is using the concept of buddhi. But here, that buddhi yoga differs from jnana. Jnana, there is no bhakti. On the platform of jnana, as I said earlier, when I was explaining the summary of yoga ladder, right? In jnana, you simply want to give up your work, but there is no dedication for a higher cause. In the sense, there is no dedication to serve Krishna. You are still in that state of having given up work but not having engaged in bhakti. So it's like a transitory platform, or the middle platform, where you have given up some work which is good, but then you have to take up something higher. If you don't do that, then that platform of jnana is not sustainable, which we will see in these few verses. Right? Does that help?
Yeah, got it. Yes.
Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes,
Can
Madhu.
can I conclude that, the Jnana Yoga is basically what the Mayavadis will follow as, and they know what is body and soul, but then
Absolutely.
the
Yes.
service is missing.
Absolutely. Yes. So the Mayavadis are generally on the platform of jnana, and they have given up. Definitely, they are much better than those who are pure materialists, no doubt about it. But then they don't have an effective engagement. And that is why Prabhupada explains at length in the scriptures. If you read subsequently, when you go to Bhagavatam, there are many purports where Prabhupada explains that these Mayavadis, or the impersonalists, they are definitely transcendentalists because they have given up the material engagements. But because there is no effective spiritual engagement, they don't have, for lack of activity, actually they fall down from that space and they come down to the material world, and then they start some kind of philanthropic activities, like making hospitals or feeding the poor and things like that. So that is ultimately, you've left that and then come back to that in some form or the other. So that is not a sustainable platform for us. Why? Because we are all living souls, we are living entities. We need active engagement. Either we are pure materialists, or we are engaged in spiritual activities, or we are trying to strike a balance, like most of us, with the right consciousness. That is very important, right? If the consciousness is not right, then we are dragged back to the material platform. Is it okay?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. That
Yes,
sorry,
Prabhu.
Vyamishrena, that is equivocal. You said, no, Prabhuji. Can you please
Yes,
explain that?
Vyamishrena.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that means both are same. You said that. What is it
No,
like?
Vyamishrena means okay. Here, Arjuna is understanding that his understanding. Of course, he's presenting the understanding that jnana and karma are two different things, right? But actually, in bhakti, when it comes to bhakti, everything is reconciled, because there is jnana also about the process of devotion service, and there is karma also because we are serving Krishna. Correct? So in bhakti, both jnana and karma come together. Actually, everything comes together in bhakti, because there is everything, every act. There is karma, there is active service, but everything is called yoga, which means everything is connected to Krishna. Your knowledge is also about Krishna. The work that we are doing is also to serve Krishna. So jnana and karma become one in bhakti. But Arjuna's understanding of jnana is that I understand and I don't fight. I don't perform any activity. That is his understanding of jnana. That means there is no activity in jnana. That is the platform of impersonalists. That they have given up all material activities and they're simply sitting silent, they're meditating, or they are doing their study of scriptures. There is no active engagement, correct? That is Arjuna's understanding of jnana. Whereas karma, we know, is full of engagements. The word karma itself means to work. So Arjuna is seeing this kind of dichotomy, or this kind of contradiction between jnana and karma. And that is why he's asking Krishna, that this Vyamishreneva, why are you mixing up two contradictory things and telling me two contradictory instructions? On the one hand, you're telling me not to fight, and then you're telling me to also fight. But he has misunderstood it. Actually, Krishna is not confusing Arjuna. But as I said, he, as a sincere student, he is presenting our consciousness in front of Krishna. That many of us are in this state of confusion. That is why you see in the society, many times people artificially renounce things. They give up the ashrama and go to forest or wherever, but they're not able to sustain their life like that, right? That is not the way. So jnana and karma are not two contradictory things. They are both to be done side by side, which means you do your activities with the full understanding and knowledge. So there is no contradiction there, actually. There is nothing equivocal there.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Okay, so can I request Anurag Radhika Mataji and Chittahari Das Prabhu to maybe take turns to read this verse, translation and purport.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam.
Mataji, your voice is very low. Could you please come closer to the
Hare Krishna
microphone?
Prabhuji, can you hear now?
Slightly better, yes.
Okay. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha Pura Prokta Maya Nagha Jnana Yogena Sankhyanam Karma Yogena Yoginam.
Thank you.
Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead said, Loke, in the world.
Mataji, your voice has gone low, very, very low again. Sorry.
Loke, in the world, Asmin, this, Dvividha, two kinds of, Nishtha, faith, Pura, firmly, Prokta, we were said, Maya, by me, Maya, by me, Anagha, O sinless one, Jnana Yogena, by the linking process of knowledge, Sankhyanam, of the empiric philosophers, Karma Yogena, by the linking process of devotion, Yoginam, of the devotees.
I think Mataji, some are others able to hear Mataji?
No, Prabhu.
No, I think you have some problem with the microphone. Either you switch your audio set or just come closer to the microphone, Mataji.
I am closer, very, very close, Prabhu.
Your volume setting, maybe have you checked your volume setting?
Prabhu, maybe somebody else reads until we check.
Okay, sure. No problem.
Sorry, Prabhu.
No problem. Dhanavir Prabhu, are you there? Prabhu, you want to read the translation purport?
Translation. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O sinless Arjuna, I have already explained that there are two classes of people who try to realize the self. Some are inclined to understand it by empirical philosophical speculation, and others by devotional service.
Yeah, you can read the purport also.
The second chapter, verse 39, the Lord explained two kinds of procedures, namely Sankhya Yoga and Kama Yoga, or Buddhi Yoga. In this verse, the Lord explains the same more clearly. Sankhya Yoga, or the analytical study of the nature of spirit and matter, is the subject matter for persons who are inclined to speculate and understand things by experimental knowledge and philosophy. The other class of men work with Krishna consciousness, as it is explained in the 61st verse of the second chapter. The Lord has explained also in the 9th verse that by working by the principles of Buddhi Yoga or Krishna consciousness, one can be released from the bonds of action. And furthermore, there is no flaw in the process. The same principle is more clearly explained in the 61st verse, that yes, Buddhi Yoga is to depend entirely on the Supreme, or more specifically, on Krishna. And in this way, all the senses can be brought under control very easily. Therefore, both the yogas are interdependent, as religion and philosophy. Religion without philosophy is sentiment, or sometimes fanaticism, or philosophy without religion is mental speculation. The ultimate goal is Krishna, because the philosophers who are also sincerely searching after the absolute truth come in the end to Krishna consciousness. This is also stated in the Bhagavat. The whole process is to understand the real position of the self in relation to the super self. The indirect process is philosophical speculation, by which gradually one may come to the point of Krishna consciousness. And the other process is directly connecting with everything in Krishna consciousness. Of these two, the path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by philosophical process. Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. And by the direct method of devotional service, it is simultaneously easy and sublime.
Thank you, Prabhu. So here now Krishna is beginning to speak. So now slowly he will clear all the doubts of Arjuna and also of us in the process, right? So here Krishna is telling, so Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, Lokesmin Dvividha, which means there are two types of faith to be followed in this material world. Lokesmin Dvividha Nishtha. And this has been practiced from time immemorial. Pura prokta mayanaga. This means it's been going on since immemorial time. And what are the two paths? Jnana yoga and karma yoga. So you see here now, Krishna is combining both and he's adding the word yoga. It's not just jnana and karma, it's jnana yoga and karma yoga. Jnana yogena sankhyanam, karma yogena yoginam. So there are two processes by which one can attain perfection or attain full faith in whatever process you're doing. One is jnana yogena sankhyanam, which means through the analytical study of spirit and matter. Sankhya always refers to analytical study in the scriptures. That's why there is something called Sankhya Yoga, which is nothing but another level of Jnana Yoga where you analyze this whole material world as constituting of different material elements. Like in Kapila Dev's Sankhya Yoga later in the third canto of Bhagavatam, you all can read later when we come to the Bhagavatam, that how Kapila Dev explains or analyzes this whole material world as constituting of different material elements, subtle and gross. Right? That is Sankhya. So that is the platform of knowledge. Then the second platform is Karma Yogena Yoginam. Karma Yogena means somehow or the other connect your work. So yoga always means to connect to Krishna. Yoga means connection with Krishna or union with Krishna. So through the work, we connect to ourselves to Krishna. So there are two paths. To knowledge, we connect, and by work, we connect. So that is the common point here between jnana and karma. So there are two paths that lead to the same destination. Nothing contradictory here because ultimately my destination is the same. So for example, if I go from here to, what is example? If I go from here to Little India, I can go via Serangoon Road, I can take Serangoon Road, or I can go directly to Expressway, right? There are two ways. But ultimately, I reach a destination in our center, right? Similarly, there are different paths. But here Krishna is talking about two main paths that generally people follow. One is the path of knowledge, ultimately coming to me, or through the use of karma, through their work, they come to me. But here, Krishna is telling Arjuna that the path of work, coming to me through the path of work, is better. Why is that better? Because he will explain further. This path of just knowledge means, as we have said, give up your work, and through the mental speculation, through philosophical speculation, you come to understand that, the Mayavadis, some Mataji brought up this point, like Mayavadis, what they do normally is they give up all active work and they start studying the scriptures, Swadhyaya. And through analysis of different scriptures, they come to the point, oh, not this, neti, 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 they say, right? Not this, not this, not this. This is not reality. This is not reality. Ultimately come to the point that Brahman or the impersonal Brahman is the all in all. But of course, one has to go beyond that impersonal Brahman and come to the understanding that God is a person, right? But that takes a long time, long period of time. That is why in 12th chapter, you were all chanting the 12th chapter verses earlier before we started session. There is a particular verse, the Klesho Adhikataras Tesham Avyakta Sakta Chetasam Avyakta Hi Gatir Dukkham Deha Vadbir Avapyate. That Krishna telling Arjuna that Klesho Adhikataras, this path of knowledge or philosophical speculation is extremely long-winded and difficult for somebody to surpass. Klesho Adhikataras, ultimate, is full of klesha. So many difficulties to perform penances, austerities is not easy. Right? For people, especially for people like us who are in this material world doing our activity and everything, to suddenly stop everything and take up the path of philosophical speculation is not at all easy, not at all practical. So Krishna is himself telling that this path is extremely long-winded. And then in the 7th chapter also Krishna states Arjuna that Bahunam Janmanamante Jnanavan Mam Prapadyate Vasudeva Sarvamiti Sa Mahatma Sudurlabha. That these people who tread on this path of knowledge, Bahunam Janmanam, they take many lives, ultimately to come to the point that Vasudeva or myself, Krishna, is all in all. That Krishna is telling Arjuna. That they take so many births, so many difficulties they have to undergo to come to this point that ultimately Vasudeva Sarvamiti. And such people are extremely rare, which means many people not even able to complete the path. They give up. And they give up, as I said earlier, some of them give up and they return to their material activities, but in a slightly, polished way that, okay, I'm doing some charitable activities, or I'm not saying they are not right, they're not correct, but that's not the higher platform. So that path of Jnana Yoga is extremely difficult to tread. That is why Krishna is giving us practically that the path of karma is easy and practical for everyone to follow. And how is that possible to follow? That is, we are performing our occupational duties, whatever ashrama or varna we are in. Whatever we are in today, most of us are in grihastha ashrama, and most of us are performing some activities. Either you're doing business or you're working in some company, employed by somebody. Majority of us are in that platform, or some of us are studying. We are still in the bachelor stage where we are studying. So whatever platform we are in, just be situated in the same platform. Do your activities, but purify your consciousness. Right? Don't do it in the same consciousness as you are doing. Just I'm doing it for my sake, for my enjoyment. I'm doing it for a higher cause, and the highest cause is to serve Krishna. Right? That is bhakti yoga. In the yoga ladder, the highest path is bhakti yoga. So our destination is very, very clear. Although we are in the lower part of the ladder, our destination is very clear, and we are gradually climbing the ladder. So the destination is clear, and through the process of working and purifying ourselves, we are slowly going towards that highest platform. That is what Krishna is recommending to all of us, that although there are two paths, some are inclined to understand by empirical, philosophical, others by devotional service, but later Krishna will explain. But Prabhupada is already told here, Krishna consciousness of these two, path of Krishna consciousness is better because it does not depend on purifying the senses by philosophical process. And that is extremely difficult, as I said. To perform austerities, to perform penances in the path of philosophical speculation is very, very, very difficult, practically impossible for us. But Krishna consciousness is itself the purifying process. Why? Because we are always remembering Krishna. Whatever work we are doing, we are remembering Krishna, and through that we are purifying ourselves. So even though we are working, whatever activities we are doing, whether Matajis are at home or Prabhus are working in the office or doing business, children are studying, whatever they're doing it ultimately with the correct understanding that I'm doing it by remembering Krishna, or I'm doing it to serve Krishna. So that consciousness is itself a purifying factor. There is no need for separate purification. The process of Krishna consciousness itself is purifying, and hence this method is the most sublime and easy for us to practice. So that is the sum and substance of this verse. So any comments or questions for anyone?
Prabhuji, are you able to hear me? I'm speaking a bit slow.
Yeah, I can hear you, Prabhuji. Yes.
Prabhuji, generally specific to this Karma Yoga.
Yeah.
I mean, if you talk to anyone outside Krishna consciousness, and when we were also out there, so people say that Karma Yoga basically means just do your duty rightfully. But what point is missing is remembrance of Krishna. So,
yes.
So in generally, Karma Yoga, I mean, for me also, some time ago, the normal understanding was that, whatever, even if you're doing in IT or banking or whatever we are doing, just do that rightfully.
Correct.
So, and still some confusion occurs that, if we are doing our work properly, that is it. But how important is, because in our day-to-day life, generally in office also, I mean, we discussed with Prabhuji earlier also, sometimes we are not able to remember Krishna in a day-to-day life. We are so busy, and the whole day we were busy. We are not able to remember him. But we are able to do our work. Sometimes we are not able to do our work. So in that sense, how this Karma Yoga fits, like, it's like, should we, like, at the end of the day, dedicate everything to Krishna? Whatever we did was for you. So is it something like that, Prabhuji?
Okay, very nice question, Prabhu. In fact, very practical. So, see, first of all, I just want to clarify Karma Yoga. See, what people generally use the word Karma Yoga is actually not Karma Yoga at all. It is just karma, because there is no connection to Krishna, generally speaking. Like for us also, before we came to devotion service, whatever work we're doing, there was nothing in connection with Krishna. So it was pure karma. But people wrongly understand it as Karma Yoga, right? Because generally people use the verse, no, the Bhagavad Gita. Karmanyevadhikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. So as long as I'm doing, not harming anybody, I'm doing good work, I'm not troubling anybody, I'm paying my taxes, I'm doing legitimate legal work, that is Karma Yoga. But that is not. It is much better than doing bad karma, definitely. That you're doing some criminal activities or something, definitely better than that. But still, that is not a perfect stage of living or working. So that is why when we come to devotional service, we introduce to what is known as Karma Yoga, which means whatever you do it with in Krishna consciousness. So the question you asked is, how do we work practically in the office or wherever and still remember Krishna? That is why our sadhana must be very pakka, right? Sadhana meaning whenever we get up early in the morning, we chant our rounds nicely, sincerely. Whatever rounds we're chanting, maybe 1 round, 2 round, 3 round, 4 round, doesn't matter. The quality of chanting must be there. That's why the early morning hours are best for us to develop that spiritual attitude. Very, very conducive, because there is no excuse that I have work or I have school or I have office, anything. Early morning hours, we are completely free. The mind is also fresh when we get up in the morning. That Brahma Muhurta time is extremely favorable for cultivation of spiritual attitudes, spiritual values. So if we takes these steps in our life, that I have to improve the quality of my life, I have to improve my practice of devotion service, chanting, reading, and hearing. Mainly these three things are very, very important. And if you have deities at home, all the more better. We can do some small Mangalarti in the morning, right? Whatever time you can fix, 4:30, 5:30, whatever. But before sunrise, preferably. So if we do these simple things like you chant your rounds, take darshan of deities in the morning, and then you hear or study whatever 10 minutes, 15 minutes, but make it a practice. There should be a regulation in whatever we do. There must be this must be regularized, not that I do once a week or once a month, as far as possible. That's why you have to adjust your life, your timings accordingly. Everybody's schedules are different. So you have to work out your own schedule. Not that you have to spend 2-3 hours in the morning, maybe 1 hour at the most, like chanting your Aarti, puja, whatever you do in the morning, and study, either study or hearing. One of these also you can do. And then you can continue some activity after you're finishing work later in the day. So if you follow this strict regimen of, there is some austerity, definitely. I'm not saying it is completely easy. There has to be some endeavor, some effort at the end of the day. But if you do this sincerely, if you continuously practice every day without fail, then you will see naturally the consciousness changing. And that is the purification, because one is you're directly engaged in Krishna's activities, right? Chanting, Mangalarti, whatever. And then there is purification of a consciousness also happening at the same time. That is exactly what Prabhupada is mentioning here. Krishna consciousness itself is the purifying process. There is no separate endeavor required. So whatever practice we sincerely do, our sadhana, that becomes our asset. And that always protects us during the day when we are forgetting Krishna also. During the day, naturally, when we are busy with our activities, we may not remember Krishna, or we may not remember shlokas, or we may not be able to even chant our rounds. But doesn't matter. That initial time that you have spent for Krishna, you have dedicated for Krishna, that becomes a protection throughout the day. So even though externally I may not be remembering or doing things, but that consciousness is protected by Krishna during the day. So your day-to-day activities, your dealings with people, and your work itself, you become more concentrated, more focused. Your dealings with people, you become more, you don't get agitated by talking to people. People themselves will say that, oh, I've heard so many examples of devotees telling me that, by following this, their relationships at work also improve. They don't get agitated unnecessarily. When the difficult situations come, they're able to see that, okay, there must be something that Krishna is teaching me here or telling me here. Immediately their consciousness is pivoted to Krishna. So this pivoting is very important. Our consciousness must always pivot or must be fixed at Krishna's lotus feet. There's somehow the other, even though externally we may not be able to remember, but Krishna is there to protect our consciousness. And that is what is karma yoga, really. True meaning of karma yoga is that whatever I'm doing in the background, Krishna is always there. Externally, we may not remember, but internally, internalizing it, that is, Krishna is always there. And that's how Krishna protects our consciousness, not that we are trying to endeavor. But because we have given that little bit of time for Krishna at the beginning, he takes over and he guides us through the day, even though externally we may not remember. Is that helping, Prabhu?
Perfect, Prabhuji. You've enlightened us. Many points we can relate. It's very good answer, Prabhuji. Thank you.
No, this is what we have all heard from seniors. So I'm just repeating, and whatever we try to follow, if we find that it is working, then naturally we spread the message to everyone, right? Yeah. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for bringing this up. Anything else? Anyone?
Prabhu,
Yeah.
Yeah. Swayam Prakash Prabhu, yeah.
Yes.
Prabhu, just in continuation to this, as we grow and as we are chanting our rounds more regularly in the morning hours, the more you realize that that cleaning process is starting. And
Yes.
as Prabhuji was explaining last time, that when you clean, the dust is more in the start.
Yes.
It disturbs, but you still continue working hard. And there are, as you said, that your consciousness is protected when you are doing it. But there are many things in the whole day which you do, which you know that you are not supposed to do.
Correct.
There are many things. We know our intelligence tells us that this is wrong, don't do it. But then you are so bound by your habits or say your bad habits that you still end up doing them. But you are still praying that, Lord, I
Yes.
know I am understanding that it is wrong, but I'm not able to get rid of it. Does this praying and of course with our efforts, not only praying with our efforts, will this get rid? This is what the
Absolutely.
question was.
Absolutely. Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, right? Api chet sujita suduchara duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhureva samantavya samyak vyavasito hisa. Some people out of habits or because of karmic reactions, they are bound to certain things which they know that they're not supposed to do, but they're still helplessly drawn to it. But Krishna considers them as still as devotees, does not give them up. He does not give up anyone. One who has taken once to the path of Krishna consciousness is always Krishna's property. He takes care of Krishna. Krishna always takes care of that person. But as you rightly said, it is important for us to be conscious of whatever we are doing and make honest attempts, sincere attempts to rectify ourselves. It's not that then we should not commit offenses. Huh? There is a difference between sincerely trying to improve oneself versus thinking that, oh, I'm chanting, I can still commit offenses because by chanting I can counteract. There are two different things. So Prabhupada cautions us there, right? So as you rightly said, important thing is to be conscious that whatever I'm doing is wrong. Once we start justifying our actions that, okay, this may not be wrong actually, because I am now on a different platform. So I'm not affected by these material reactions. No, that is absolutely not the way of thinking. The right way is, yes, I still have some bad habits which I'm trying sincerely to remove, but it is taking time, right? It is like inertia, right? Immediately it does not stop. It's like Prabhupada gives the example of the fan running. If you switch off the power, the fan does not stop immediately. It takes a while to stop. So that reactions, because we have had so many births of reactions, it takes a little while to clear. But initially, we can definitely feel, as you rightly said, when we start this process, immediately we'll see the clearing stage happening. But still, there are remnants of those remaining as we continue to practice, and that will definitely go away. But important thing is, it's up to us to continue to sincerely practice it and be conscious of what we are doing.
Okay. Yes, sure. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much.
much. Yeah. That's why we are honest. We are very fortunate to have association, right? We can always discuss with devotees with whom we are close, and then devotees will encourage us and they'll help us because everybody is going through some form of difficulty or the other. Right. Thank you. All right. Let's move to the next verse. See who can chant this verse.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, can you hear us now?
Who is this Mataji? Yeah. Anuja
Can you
Mataji,
hear?
right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we can hear clear, loud and clear now.
Oh,
Yeah.
can we continue?
Yeah.
Prabhu?
Please. Yeah, please. This verse you can chant.
न कर्मणा मनारंभा नैष्कर्म्यं पुरुषो श्रुते न च सन्न्यसनादेव सिद्धिं समधिगच्छति न not कर्मणाम of prescribed duties anarambhat by non performance naishkarmyam freedom from reaction purushah a man asnute achieves na nor cha also sanyasanat by renunciation eva simply siddhim success samadhi gachati attains. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection.
Yeah, please.
The renounced order of life can be accepted when one has been purified by the discharge of prescribed forms of duties which are laid down just to purify the hearts of materialistic men. Without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order of life, sannyasa. According to the imperial philosophers, simply by adopting sannyasa or retiring from fruitive activities, one at once become a good as Narayana. But Lord Krishna does not approve this principle. Without purification of heart, sannyasa is simply a disturbance to the social order. On the other hand, if someone takes to the transcendental service of Lord, even without discharging his prescribed duties, whatever he may be able to advance in the cause is accepted by the Lord. Buddhi Yoga. Swa alpam apasya dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat. Even in slight performance of such a principle enables one to overcome great difficulties.
Thank you, Prabhu Mataji. So here now Krishna is continuing his explanation, and he makes it very, very clear here that not by merely abstaining from work can one achieve freedom from reaction, nor by renunciation alone can one attain perfection. Right? So here Krishna is telling us that don't abruptly take any decisions, whether to stop work or completely I renounce myself. Right? You cannot abruptly change. It should gradually, naturally flow. So what Krishna is telling us that we follow our consciousness. Don't try to go against or don't try to jump our consciousness. Our consciousness right now is still in a material platform. We are attached to things. Don't try to perform activities that are not aligned to your consciousness. Correct? That is what he's telling essentially. That means your consciousness is still in a material platform attached, and you're trying to give up all attachments, or you're completely trying to renounce, stopping work and renouncing everything. It's not aligned to your consciousness. Let your consciousness progress further, advance further. Then the activities can follow naturally. It should become a natural outcome of your consciousness. Whatever activities we perform should reflect our consciousness. That is what Krishna consciousness is all about actually. If you are thinking deeply about Krishna, then the activities should be consistent with our consciousness. That means we are remembering Krishna. That means when we are talking to somebody, we see them as part and parcel of Krishna. We see everybody as part and parcel of Krishna. Then we don't get agitated in difficult situations. When some difficulties come, we don't get agitated because our consciousness is fixed to Krishna. So Krishna is bringing us to that platform that don't perform duplicity in your activities. Don't be hypocrite. Whatever your consciousness is, perform your activities according to that. That is exactly what he's telling us, that try to purify. Prabhupada elaborates very nicely in the purport that without purification, one cannot attain success by abruptly adopting the fourth order. What are the four orders of life? You have brahmachari, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyasa. Everybody has to naturally follow this process. Of course, there are, as I said earlier, there are many people who may remain the brahmachari platform. They don't get married, directly go to sannyas. That is also possible. In our society, we see many Nashtika brahmacharis who continue in the brahmachari ashram. But that is also fine, nothing wrong. Because why? They are engaged in devotional service. They are not doing some activity outside of devotional service. As long as you are in the purview of devotional service, you can still bypass that grahastha stage and vanaprastha and go from brahmachari to sannyas. But only if you are positively engaged in devotional service. But for vast majority of us, we have to go through these four orders of life. Right? We all of us were in a student life, brahmachari life. Then we entered the householder life. And some of us are in that stage where we are in the retirement stage. That retirement stage is nothing but vanaprastha, which means the children are settled. Then you spend more time going to dham, going to holy places. The husband and wife together, they spend more time performing more and more devotional service. Children are in their own activities. Of course, we come together sometime, but most of the time we are, we are focused on our own devotional service. That means the father and mother are performing their own devotional service. And then eventually, if Krishna permits or Krishna wills, the person can take, the male members can take sannyas. But normally in our societies, it is very rare that nobody from a grahastha ashram will take up sannyas. But doesn't matter. As I said earlier, the engagement is important. So whatever your consciousness is, your activities must mirror the consciousness. If you still have some attachments, there's no harm in continuing your grahastha life. But important thing is to engage your energies, engage your efforts in devotional service. And that is the formula that Prabhupada has actually established the society on, based on these principles only. So everything that Prabhupada has given us is based on Shastra, based on whatever Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam is told. So here is very, very clear that the Mayavadis, they artificially give up, not because they are attached. They actually don't have any attachment. They don't have material attachments, but because they don't have positive engagement, right? After taking sannyas, they don't have active engagement. That is why they fall down to the material platform again. It cannot be sustained, right? Because in their mind, they are still thinking that I have to do this, I have to do this, because that is the nature of the soul. Next, Krishna will talk about it. The nature of soul is to be always active. And you suddenly give up activities, the mind cannot sustain that. right? The mind and the body cannot sustain or is not aligned to that consciousness. So hence, they engage in some activity or the other, and chances are that if you try to artificially restrain, after that, whatever activities you do will be a shastri, will not be according to Shastra, right? It's like keeping some high pressure object subjected to high pressure and suddenly releasing it, it will burst, right? So if you artificially restrain, and then whatever comes out as a result is not going to be conducive to your spiritual life. So that is what Arjuna is being told by Krishna here, that better you purify your activities through the process of devotional service. And one very encouraging thing Prabhupada writes here, Swalpam api cha dharmasya trayate mahatabat. Anybody remember this verse? You have already completed this verse in the second chapter. Anybody would like to recite this verse? Because this is also one of the verses I believe was given for remembrance.
Neha Vikrama Nasurti Pratyavayo Navidyade Swalpampapyasya Dharmasya Trayade Mahado Vayat.
Thank you, Prabhuji, so much. Thank you so much. So this is verse 240 of Bhagavad Gita, where Arjuna is, Krishna started talking about this Buddhi Yoga. As I said, this Buddhi Yoga topic he already started in the second chapter. But there were many, many topics in the second chapter. That's why there could be some confusion in the minds of Arjuna as a result of that, right? I mean, essentially presenting ourselves. Arjuna is presenting ourselves in front of Krishna. So there Krishna told Arjuna that this path of devotional service is so nice that even if you start and not able to complete, or you make some mistakes, there is no loss. Swalpam apis, even if you perform little devotional service, still you're protected from the greatest danger. Trayate mahato bhayat. What is the greatest danger? The greatest danger is falling back into the material activities again. Falling again into the material platform. That means you're trying for some spiritual perfection, but if you're not able to finish, there is no danger, because whatever you have performed is your permanent credit. There are many verses which will come later in the 6th chapter also, where Krishna tells Arjuna that whatever devotional service a devotee has performed, if he is not able to finish it in this life, he can continue from where he has left off in the next life, depending on his quantum of service or whatever. His next life, either he will take birth in a devotee's family, or at least he will take birth in a family where there is nice culture of devotional service. I mean, there are no material difficulties, he can still concentrate on devotional service. So that is the benefit of performing bhakti. Whatever bhakti you perform becomes permanent. Why? Because it is not on the bodily platform. It is on the platform of the soul. And because soul is eternal, devotional service is also eternal. It never goes away. So that is why there's nothing for us to lose. Whether we have faith or we don't have faith, there's no harm in trying out this process, because there's no loss. It's like somebody's telling you that I will, you take up this, you buy this thing, I'll give it to you free. You don't have to pay anything. Just try it, and if you like it, then you can purchase the product again. So for us, there's nothing to lose, right? We try it. If you don't like it, if it's not according to our consciousness, then we can give it up. There's no loss. But whatever you have done still remains your permanent credit. And that becomes your platform in the next life to start. So here is a very nice verse that Krishna is speaking, and then he will continue now. Any comments here? I don't know whether we'll be able to finish the 9 verses, but let's see whatever we can do today.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Yes.
Prabhu, you mentioned about controlling the senses artificially, right? So in general, I think most of the times, at least I'll be doing that. I try to control my senses artificially. Say I want to eat something, do something. But at least we are like, there is, it's like fake it until you make it, right? There is something like that. So at least I try to do that. Is it the right way of doing it, or we need to do something else?
Okay, so good question, Prabhu. So what Krishna is telling here is that don't just perform things without any basis, right? There's nothing wrong in we all have to engage in some kind of sense control. For example, Ekadashi is a good example, right? Ekadashi is, we are not in that platform that we are inclined to perform devotional service. So Ekadashi becomes a good platform for us to increase our devotional service. For most of us, at least for me, I can say, there is still that artificial repression of senses that I cannot eat certain things on Ekadashi day, right? There's nothing wrong with that. We are still in that platform of gradually purifying our consciousness. So Prabhupada always says that some amount of sense restraint or control is important. But more importantly, what are we doing by controlling the senses? Are you engaging it positively in remembering Krishna or doing some activity that is related to Krishna? Then that sense control has meaning. For example, on Ekadashi day, let's say you have taken a vow that I'll fast only on fruits and milk, for example. So you save a lot of time. But
Yep.
if after saving time, if you're still thinking that, oh, I have tried to control my food, but you're constantly thinking that when will I be able to eat some proper food? Maybe tomorrow. I have to wait until tomorrow. I have to wait until tomorrow. I have to wait until tomorrow. This kind of artificial restraint is not going to help us, right? Better you take some Ekadashi prasadam, either sabudana or whatever it is, and then use that time and do some activity in favorable to Krishna, and by studying more or maybe chanting extra rounds that day. If you have time, then you read more scriptures, hear more that day. That's what we try to do, right? Ekadashi means we try to intensify some aspect of devotional service that day, either chanting, either hearing or studying. But the idea is to save time from other activities. So if you're taking a vow of eating only fruits and milk, which means there is some kind of artificial sense control here, right? Because you're not naturally inclined to it.
Yep.
But you're channeling that control effectively by doing some activity, by increasing your devotional service. In that particular case, your sense control makes sense.
Okay, Prabhu.
Does it make sense, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu.
So it should not be isolated. We cannot do things in isolation, that I'm trying to control myself artificially. That is what Krishna is condemning here. In any devotional practice, any spiritual practice, there is always some aspect of sense control because we have not been used to it. This is completely foreign to us, right? Our previous lives, if you compare, we cannot even think of how we used to get up like 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the morning on weekends, right? I used to do that. Saturday, Sunday means sleep till people come and wake you up, right? Forcefully pull you out of the bed. But we have forgotten that time now. Morning means we have deities, we have to get up in the morning. So there is some kind of artificial restraint, but then we are channeling it properly. It is channeled towards Krishna. We are doing some activity for Krishna, so it doesn't become completely artificial. So that is what Krishna is telling here.
Understood, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you for bringing it up, Prabhu. Anyone else? All right, let's go to the next verse. Raj Keshav or Nischay. Who's Nischay is here?
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Can you chant, Prabhu?
Okay, Prabhuji. Nahi kaschit kshanam api jatu tistatye akarmakrit karyate avasaha karma sarvaha prakriti jair gunahi.
Very good, very good. Yeah.
Na, nor, he, certainly, kaschit, anyone, kshana, a moment, api, also, jatu, at the same time, tishati, remains, akarmakrit, without doing something, karyate, is forced to do, he, certainly, avasa, helplessly, karma, work, sarva, all, prakriti jai, born of the modes of the material nature, gunaya, by the qualities.
Yeah.
Translation by Srila Prabhupada. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities he has acquired from the modes of the material nature. Therefore, no one can refrain from doing something, not even for a moment. Purport. It is not a question of embodied life, but it is the nature of the soul to be always active. Without the presence of the spiritual soul, the material body cannot move. The body is only a dead vehicle to be worked by the spirit soul, which is always active and cannot stop even for a moment. As such, the spirit soul has to be engaged in the good work of Krishna consciousness. Otherwise, it will be engaged in occupations dictated by illusory energy. In contact with material energy, the spirit soul acquires material modes, and to purify the soul from such affinities, it is necessary to engage in the prescribed duties enjoined in the Shastras. But if the soul is engaged in his nature function of Krishna consciousness, whatever he is able to do is good for him. The Srimad Bhagavatam 1.5.17 affirms this. Tyaktva swadharmam charnaram bhujan harer bhajan apako ta tha pate tato yadi yatra ka vabhadram abudh amusya kim ko varta apto bhajatam swadharmatah. If someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties in the Shastras or execute the devotional service properly, and even though he may fall down from the standard, there is no loss or evil for him. But if he carries out all the injunctions for purification in the Shastras, what does it avail him if he is not Krishna conscious? So the purification process is necessary for reaching this point of Krishna consciousness. Therefore, sannyasa or any purification process is to help to reach the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna consciousness, without which everything is considered a failure.
Thank you, Prabhu. So here now, Krishna is beginning to start talking about what is called in the yoga ladder. We spoke about nishkama karma. Remember, we spoke earlier of karma, sakama karma, nishkama karma, right? So now the next few verses, Krishna will focus on nishkama karma. That means now slowly the process of purification has started, right? Through these verses, we are beginning to understand that we cannot artificially give up our work. We have to still work, because that work will purify us if you're performing in the right consciousness. And ultimately, it will bring us to the right platform of dedicating our whole being to the service of Krishna. That is the ultimate objective of life, right? To perfect life is we have to dedicate everything to Krishna. That is the ultimate objective. But we are slowly coming to that platform. So now Krishna is telling here why artificial restraint of senses, which means artificially trying to stop work, is not the recommended path. Why? Even though externally we may try to stop, because our mind is always dwelling on sense objects, ultimately we will engage in some irregulated activity, ultimately. Like the example of something that is kept under high pressure for a long time and then released, right? It will just burst open. So Krishna is telling here, it is not practical, because why? The nature of the soul is to be always active. Everyone is forced to act helplessly according to the qualities required. Nahi kasit shanamapi, not a single moment can we stay active. We may think that I'm sitting and meditating and not doing anything, but our mind is always active, right? Mind is constantly deliberating on material things. We remember all, we don't need to tell you, right? When we start picking up a chanting beads in the morning, immediately the mind goes here and there. Until then, the mind is peaceful. But the moment we pick up the beads to start chanting, I'm sure we all have experienced it. I experience it every day. The moment you pick up that beads, whatever thoughts were not there start coming. Oh, some work-related thoughts, or some something to do with family, some children, or if nothing else, I'll think about my parents at home, back home, oh, my father's health, this and that. 1,000 things will keep coming, because the mind is a storehouse of all the impressions, not only from this life, but also from the past lives. The mind is our memory, the small chip which has unimaginable amount of information. There's no chip that is stronger than the mind, they say. Right? It's storehouse of information. All these things will start popping out the moment you pick up the beads, because the nature of the mind is material. The mind will always force us to think of material things. So when we try ourselves to do some spiritual activity like chanting or reading, immediately the mind creates a distraction. Right? That is why Krishna is telling us through these verses that please understand that your nature is always to be active. That's why be active. And active in such a way that you channel the mind and intelligence also in the right direction. Why? Because it is the soul ultimately who's acting, right? The soul is acting through this body. So we must be on the platform of the soul and not on the platform of the mind and the body. We must be on the spiritual platform. And that is why the purification of consciousness is important. Purification of consciousness means we are slowly taking away our soul from material atmosphere to the spiritual atmosphere. That is what is purification all about. And that purification can only come not by stopping the work, because by stopping work, it becomes even worse, but by channelizing our activities or mind in such a way that we are going towards a positive direction. That is what Krishna is saying. That is positive direction is nothing but your nishkama karma yoga. And on the ladder, we are progressing from sakama, from attachments, to a platform of detachment. But that is not artificial. It is through purification of consciousness that naturally we come to the platform of detachments. Now we have been practicing devotional service for some time. It is natural that there is some detachment quality that comes, not due to our endeavor, not because of our strength or anything. It is the mercy of the Lord. The process is itself purifying our consciousness. And slowly we start seeing things as these things are temporary. Why are we so attached to these things? Even in relationships, we get that kind of feeling. Of course, we still perform our duties. Nobody's asking us to stop the duties. Like if you're in a family position, you have to still maintain your family. You have to still look after your parents, aged parents, your children, husband, wife have to look after each other. Nobody's giving up that. But we still develop that quality of detachment that I should not be so attached. So the excessive attachments slowly start going away. There is still that minimal attachment that is needed. That affection, love, everything is needed in the family setting that we cannot give up. That is natural. That is natural for us. But we give up that over attachments. Excess attachments slowly start going away. And we develop a feeling of detachment slowly. And that detachment is nothing else but our purification of our consciousness. Right? And in that way, we slowly progress from attachments to a platform of detachment. And then by Krishna's mercy, we further progress depending on our sincerity, our practice, and of course, the Lord's mercy is always there, right? That depends on our own endeavor. So that is what Krishna is telling here. And he quotes some important verses, Prabhupada, here. This verse is very similar to the verse we saw earlier that, the Swalpam apiyasa dharma se trayate mahato bhaya, that there is no loss in devotional service. And to again emphasize this point that whatever, even if we don't have full faith in spiritual practice and devotional service, still there is no loss. That Krishna is telling very clear. This verse is spoken by Narada Muni to Vyasadeva in the first canto, 5th chapter. Very famous verse. That Narada Muni is telling that if someone takes to Krishna consciousness, even though he may not follow the prescribed duties, that he, by force of karma or whatever, if he is not able to perform, and he may fall down, still there is no loss. Whereas if we still perform our material activities perfectly, but there is no Krishna consciousness, then that work is also of no use because it is temporary. Anything that done on the material platform is going to finish with your body. When the body finishes, that work is finished. But because spiritual activity or devotion service is on the platform of the soul, that activity is eternal and continues even after this body is gone. And even if we fall down, if we don't finish the activity, also there is no loss. So then Prabhupada asked the question, what is the difficulty? So remember Prabhupada speaking, always he says, what is the difficulty? What is the difficulty? He's referring to this, that there is nothing for us to lose and everything for us to gain. So why are we not then sincerely performing this activity? If he's going to give us so much of benefit in terms of spiritual progress, and our material duties also go on naturally without any problem. It's just that we are performing with a different lens now. We are looking at the different consciousness, right? Because everything we know that is temporary and fleeting, and ultimately devotional service is permanent. And whatever I'm doing is just to further the cause of improving my devotional service, either by way of my occupational duties or through my sadhana or practice of devotional service. So that is the purification that Prabhupada is talking about here. And ultimately, it will take us to the ultimate goal of becoming Krishna conscious, without which everything is considered a failure. So whatever we may achieve without Krishna consciousness is ultimately bound to fail because it's going to go away from us. Our own body is not going to stay with us. What to speak of the possessions. But one thing that can take us to the next life is our devotional service. So now Krishna will continue this, but I think in the interest of time, we'll stop here for now. We'll continue from the 6th verse onwards. So until then, just to summarize what we have seen so far, is Arjuna placing his doubts before Krishna that he understood the platform of knowledge and platform of karma to be contradictory. That is why he's asking Vyamishre Neva, equivocal instructions. He's understood Krishna's instructions as equivocal or contradictory. But apparently it is not so, because Krishna is explaining now that both paths are not contradictory, but they are reconciliatory. They can be reconciled because ultimately they lead to Krishna. But one path is through the process of philosophical speculation, austerity, and performing all those activities. Because why? That relies purely on your own endeavor. Correct? That is, if I take to the path of knowledge, it all depends on my own endeavor, that I have to do this, I have to do this, I have to artificially restrain my senses, I have to devote my time for meditation to do this or do that. That is one path. The second path is path of karma, where we continue doing whatever we're doing, but we change our consciousness, we purify our consciousness. But this path also is our endeavor, but there is the element of Krishna's mercy here, which is not there in this path, or not so much there, because there is no direct connection to Krishna on the philosophical path, right? You're trying to disconnect from everything and try to do your own endeavor to study and understand the scriptures, analyze the whole spirit and matter. There is no dependence on Krishna there. But in this path of karma, there is active service and there is full dependence on Krishna. And because there is full dependence, the mercy naturally flows. And when the mercy comes, naturally that path becomes extremely accelerated for us. It becomes very easy for us. Whereas this path is full of difficulties. Klesho adhikataras tesham. Avyakta sakta chetasam, right? So that is what Krishna is guiding us now to the path of working in the right consciousness or Krishna consciousness. And slowly now he will take us to the perfect stage of bhakti yoga in the next few verses. So I'll stop here. Maybe I'll ask if there are any final questions or clarifications from anyone.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Yes.
Prabhuji, I have a question regarding the detachment part.
Yeah.
So, how do we differentiate between if we are detached or we are being irresponsible towards our duties? Like sometimes we think that we are not doing our duties, or sometimes we think is this detachment, or how do we
Very good question.
differentiate?
Very simple answer, Mataji. If you are disturbed, if you are mentally
So I'm-
disturbed still, that means that it is not detachment, it is carelessness. So that is the most important symptom of whether we are truly detached or we are just running away from our duties and not trying to perform activities. If we can expect our own mental state, are we feeling disturbed at the end of the day or are we peaceful? Chances are that if you are on a detachment platform, you'll still be very peaceful because you're still doing your activities, but with a spirit of detachment. Detachment does not mean we're not doing some things. We are still doing it, but with the right consciousness, with the spirit of detachment. Irresponsibility means I stop doing it because I'm detached now. I have nothing to do with all of this. That is not detachment. That is irresponsibility or carelessness. And that will ultimately lead to disturbance, which Krishna will come to now. Now we have stopped at the right stage. Next verse, Krishna is talking about creating disturbance in yourself, in your own life, and others' life also. Does that help, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, yes. So that it means that if we are irresponsible, we will have some guilt also.
Absolutely, yes.
Automatically, yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Thank
because
you so much.
you're doing it artificially, right?
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. Somebody else also was asking, I think, was it Kirti Mataji?
Yes, Prabhu. I was asking in the same connection,
Hmm.
like what Anurag Radhika Mataji asked, like regarding, she asked about detachment. So, but when we see many devotees who take up to Krishna consciousness so sincerely and seriously, and their sadhana becomes so strong that they naturally become detached.
Hmm.
And we we have seen like multimillionaires literally going and staying in a very simple place, and but like the examples of Bharat Maharaj and what Bhagavatam gives of Ajamil and everybody,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
they were very sincere followers, and then they gradually started feeling detached, and but
Yes.
then when they actually enter into that very simple humble of then that test becomes more harder.
Correct.
Krishna puts them more into a harder test. So Prabhu, then how do you still stick to it?
The examples that you gave are, of course, of Ajamil and Bharat Maharaj. Naturally, they are very exalted personalities, but they're giving us an example that if you try to be detached but completely avoid the association of devotees, right? Avoid the practice of devotional service, or you think that you can perform it on your own personal setting in a secluded place. And earlier, Krishna referred to this secluded place, right? If you think you can do ekanta bhakti, bhakti with I don't need any because I'm qualified myself to engage in devotional service. I don't need the association of devotees to perform. Then that is a recipe for disaster. So that is the example of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj went alone in the forest. He did not take association of any sadhus, not devotees. That's why he fell into the trap of material attachments. Not that he was not detached or anything, but because he didn't have support of his devotional service. We must always have support. We must nourish our devotion service through association. It is not, see, devotion service is not a practice that we have to do on our own. Yes, there is endeavor, but there is equally amount of mercy and dependence on the Lord through the devotees. That is a significant other part, right? One part is your own endeavor. See, most of the other parts, apart from bhakti, rely on your own endeavor. Whether it is be Ashtanga yoga, whether it is jnana yoga, whether it is doing some kind of other penances or austerities, it relies on one's own performance. There is no dependence on anybody else. But bhakti is exactly the opposite. Bhakti has your own endeavor, but there is equal amount of dependence on the Lord's mercy. But the Lord's mercy can come through directly his mercy or through the devotees. So if we lack that support of devotee association, then our practice of devotional service or detachment cannot be sustained. That's why Prabhupada recommends us that we live in a society of devotees and practice together. Is that okay, Mataji?
Yeah, Prabhu, just adding to it, we see that many times living in the midst of devotees also causes a lot of disturbance.
That is a different thing altogether.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
But
So,
it doesn't mean that you give up the
but-
society of devotees, right? You
No,
have
no,
to
not-
develop the
no,
the like the Prabhupada says, right? Like-minded association. You have to develop the like-minded association, and that doesn't mean that you're equally friendly to everyone. Yes, you have to be friendly to everyone. You don't have to harbor any ill feelings with anyone. But then some close association you develop only with those people who have the similar mentality or similar attitudes or similar aspirations to cultivate devotional service. So those people you develop little more closer relationships. Nothing wrong with that. Ultimately, the objective is what? Objective is that both of us have to progress in devotional service. We have to progress. We have to cultivate. We have to become better devotees. That is objective. As long as the objective is very clear, there is no personal agenda involved, then this formula works.
And bro, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Sorry if I've taken a little extra time today. Apologies for keeping you back. But Krishna willing, we can continue. I'll talk to Srina and Prabhu and see when we can have the next session. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Very nice class.
Thank you, Prabhu, so much.
Hare Krishna.
Dandavat pranam.
Prabhu.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Thank you.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.